Hello, and welcome to the show Writing in the Tiny House. The entire point of this podcast is to help the tormented artist by sharing what I know about writing, publishing, and stress management so that you can have the tools to produce the content that you have been eager to write. If you have the steps in place, you can produce a short story in as few as 3 months or a novel in as few as 18 months. And hopefully through the ideas in this podcast, you will have the wisdom to adjust that timeline if you need to. I am Devin Davis, the guy who lives and writes in a tiny house in northern Utah. Thank you for tuning in, and please enjoy today's episode of Writing in the Tiny House.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday, October 26th. And do you know what that means? It means that November is just around the corner and NaNoWriMo is happening in less than a week. Are you ready for that? Have you taken every moment that you can to make sure that all of your tools are in place so that you can hit the ground running on November 1st? It sounds pretty dramatic, but we are getting down to kind of the wire here. We are covering Preptober. We are covering just kind of what people do in order to get ready for NaNoWriMo. For those of you who have not listened to the previous episodes that cover this, Preptober, we take the entire month of October and prepare for our big drafting dash that we expect to start in November. And the whole point of NaNoWriMo, which happens the entire month of November, is to draft 50,000 words in your work in progress. So this is what this little thing of episodes has been all about. That's what this series of episodes has been about. It's about getting ready so that on November 1st, at the stroke of midnight, we can hit the ground running and draft until we drop. The title of today's episode is Let's Get Vain. I bought a thing that is supposed to help with drafting, and thus far I really like it. I went out and purchased for myself a smart typewriter. So it is just a typewriter and it syncs to a cloud service, and all that it has is a screen that is large enough to see maybe a paragraph of text, and it has very limited function as far as editing goes. This is so much like an old school typewriter with a modern technology twist to it. This entire thing, this is a smart typewriter made by the company FreeWrite, or it is a FreeWrite made by the company Astro House. They are not sponsoring this episode. This is just me sharing my own little journey here. There is a reason why I got this. The thing is, I have found that it is challenging to write in one spot in the tiny house. I like to write when things are dark. I don't like to use a laptop keyboard. I don't really actually enjoy the keyboard that came with my desktop. I recently upgraded to a Macintosh desktop. And as far as the desktop goes, it's super great and the keyboard is fine for that. However, writing a story, you get pretty persnickety about your keyboarding options, or at least I have. I found that I like to have things the way that I like them, and it makes a difference. If you are standing or sitting or do whatever, however you choose to type, keyboarding can actually be really hard on your posture, and it can actually get into your forearms and into your wrists and in all of the things. And so it is important to find a keyboard or at least a method of typing that you like, especially if you are planning on doing such a big push to draft in the month of November. The keyboard that came with my desktop, it's fine. I don't really want to write a story on it though. And I really needed something that I could kind of pack around. It's so interesting. I really didn't like my laptop. I didn't like writing on my laptop. I didn't like the keyboard on my laptop. I didn't like staring at my laptop screen. And so I got rid of my laptop and got a desktop. And I love what it does for me, but it has been more of a challenge to write here. And so mostly because of the way that my day-to-day works. When I have my kids here, they completely dominate this space and they really like to use my computer. And granted, I can, maybe be a parent and put up boundaries and tell them no, which I do. But at the same time, it is just so much easier, and I have already discovered this, to kind of take my work with me. I don't care that my kids play on my computer, but just with the way that the tiny house is laid out and whatever, the desktop is very close to the TV. I don't know. It's just not ideal. It's not a very creative space for this long-term thing, especially when the kids are with me. And there are times where I am stuck in Salt Lake City, and so I need to have a way to have something more portable. As I've been using this smart typewriter, so like I said, it is just a typewriter. It's just a keyboard. And the little screen on it is a tiny screen. This particular one has an e-ink screen, and so that's super cool. It's the same technology that a Kindle uses that makes it appear to be a printed page, and so there's not a backlight to it. However, like with the new Kindles, it does have a front light, so I can type in the dark. But I don't know, there have been all of these really, really good reviews about typewriters like this. They are distraction free. They don't sync to anything. And so you don't get notifications. You can't browse the web. You can't get on Facebook and whatever. It is just a tool for drafting specifically. You can't even go into the keyboard itself and hook up a mouse and edit any more than you could, any more than just backspacing. And granted, you can kind of toggle around with arrows a little bit, but the entire point of this keyboard is to draft. It is to kind of point yourself in a direction and move forward and deal with your mistakes later. That's the whole point. And so we are figuring it out. I have been using it quite a bit with some little things that I've been doing, and there are definitely limitations to its application. I have been using it to draft some character profiles already. I really like the way that it feels. I love the way that it types. It has a very click-clack keyboard, which I love. I love that sensory output of writing. It really just kind of works for me. Makes me feel like I'm doing something. This is not meant to edit. It is meant to draft. And so it's a thing where you draft. It automatically syncs to its own cloud service, and then you bring in what you drafted into another into a Word document or whatever. So that kind of adds a step. It's not a very big step. Then if you have a document that requires a little bit of manipulation, like an outline, you can do it from your word processor on your computer. So you may be asking yourself, can't you just write in your word processor? And the answer is absolutely yes. I have already written stuff in Scrivener. I've already written stuff in Word. I have used very basic programs and some bigger programs in order to draft novels and short stories before, and I still have all of that. However, the drafting is always the hardest part with any book, or at least one of them. Like I have said before, so many different ideas for books simply die on the vine because the author is not able to finish their draft. And so that is where this product comes into play. I said, let's get vain for the title of this episode, and this is 100% a vanity product. This was expensive for what it was. I think I dropped $650 on this smart keyboard. However, if it proves to be a valuable tool in finishing a draft and therefore accelerating my timeline to finish this story, and I mean, this is a rewrite of the novella Tis. The title is no longer going to be Tis, but I've already done some work on this. And so I'm eager to get a book finished. I mean, writing and rewriting is super fun and all, but because I am serious about drafting and serious about honing in on that and focusing and buckling down, to me, if this proves to be a good thing, it will be worth the money. So this is my take on tools and craft. You are responsible for your craft. and you get to do your craft however you see fit. And if you choose to have all of the fancy things and everything gets to be top of the line, but it puts you in a better space to do your craft and it's something that you can afford, go ahead and do it. I personally do not have a ton of money to drop on this or that, but I am very eager to finish this draft, to finish this rewrite of the novella. And this is something that I have been pondering about purchasing for more than 2 years. And so they came out with the newest version. This is version 3.0, and apparently worked out some bugs that I have been following. I've been researching this, and I have been paying attention to this type of a thing for more than 2 years. And so I got it. And like I said, I will fill you all in as far as whether or not I consider it to be a good buy or not. And that will just kind of have to be a later episode. But this is something that I am going to really put to the test during NaNoWriMo. I expect to do all of my drafting on this free write, and then I will have a follow-up review to give you at the end of NaNoWriMo once I cross that finish line and do my 50,000 words. So stay tuned for that. That episode will likely come out in December, and I will give just a big fat review on everything that I think about the free write. Just because even though it is a vanity product, it is still a tool. And if it helps you get to your finish line and it is something that you can responsibly buy, I see absolutely nothing wrong with spending money the way you wish to spend money. So that is what will be in the future as far as December episodes go. And regardless, go ahead and think about the different tools that you are going to be using for your sprint during NaNoWriMo. So you're going to be using a keyboard, and you're going to likely be building tension in your neck and in your shoulders. So make sure that you have some stretches, maybe some yoga, some exercises picked out to deal with that, because you will feel that at the end of a few hours of keyboarding. And make sure that your computer, if you are you will likely be using a computer, make sure that everything's fine. Make sure it's something that you can use. If it's a shared thing, like if it's a family computer, make sure that people understand that you get to use it for enough time in order to complete your goal. Just some stuff like that. NaNoWriMo is just around the corner, so make sure that everything is in place for you to succeed. If you use a hybrid of using your computer and also a notebook to take notes, which I do, I have a notebook right beside me here. I've been working on my outline, and I reference it all. I reference my notebook while I am drafting. If you require different things like that, if you need several notebooks, if you need printed material, if you need all of the things, make sure it's all there, so that on November 1st, you can join me in this big sprint to 50,000 words. So the next episode that you hear from me will be after NaNoWriMo has started. So be sure to friend me on NaNoWriMo. My username is author_Devin_Davis. And we might as well be friends, guys. So let's do that. And otherwise, be sure to tune in next week for another episode of Writing in the Tiny House. Have a good day, guys. Bye. And that is it for today. Go ahead and follow me on social media. On Instagram, I am at @AuthorDevinDavis. On Twitter, I am at @AuthorDevinD. And I also have an account on TikTok. Go ahead and find my information in the show notes of this episode. And remember that my short story Brigitte, which was published last fall, is available on Amazon as an ebook and on Audible as an audiobook. Go ahead and check those things out today. And be sure to join me on next week's episode of Writing in the Tiny House. Run by copy editor Chrissy Barton, Little Syllables Editing is a reliable resource for anyone looking to improve their manuscript. Chrissy does line edits, copy edits, and the final proofread for experienced writers and newbies alike. Go to littlesyllables.com and reach out to Chrissy today. A link is in the show notes.